There are mornings when you wake up and feel like nothing has moved, even though you went to bed tired from trying. You brush your teeth, make your coffee, and carry the quiet question with you into the day, wondering if any of this effort is doing what you hoped it would do. I have had days like that, where prayer felt honest but unanswered, and obedience felt heavy rather than inspiring. It is in those ordinary moments that faith is tested most, not in crisis, but in the slow repetition of waiting. We often imagine God's work as visible progress, something we can point to and explain to others with confidence. But Scripture tells us again and again that God often works in places we cannot measure. There is a passage that speaks about roots growing downward before branches ever stretch upward, and that wisdom has stayed with me. Roots grow in the dark, in silence, without applause, and no one praises them for how hard they are working. Yet without them, nothing above ground survives. Sometimes your life feels unproductive because the work happening is not meant to be seen yet. We live in a world that celebrates results, speed, and visible success, and it can quietly train us to believe God operates the same way. But when you read the stories of Scripture slowly, you notice how often God takes time. Abraham waited decades for a promise that seemed impossible, and his waiting was not wasted time. Joseph spent years misunderstood and forgotten before clarity came, and even then, it arrived quietly. David was anointed long before he was ready, and most of his growth happened while tending sheep where no one was watching. None of these seasons looked impressive from the outside. Yet God was shaping character, patience, and humility in ways that quick success never could. If your life feels still right now, it does not mean God is absent. It is often where transformation begins. There is a verse that reminds us to be still and recognize who God is, not because stillness is easy, but because it is revealing. When movement stops, we notice what we have been leaning on. We notice our fears, our expectations, and our need to control outcomes. God's work in you often involves gently removing what cannot sustain you long term. That process does not feel productive, but it is deeply necessary. Healing rarely announces itself with dramatic change. More often, it shows up as small shifts in how you respond, how you rest, and how you forgive yourself. You may not see it yet, but the fact that you are still seeking God, still choosing honesty in prayer, still getting up after disappointment, is not insignificant. There is a quiet strength in perseverance that Scripture honors. The letter to the Galatians speaks about not growing weary in doing what is good. Results are guaranteed, but because faithfulness matters. Faithfulness is not flashy, but it is powerful. It is choosing trust when clarity is missing. It is choosing patience when progress feels slow. It is choosing hope without demanding proof. Sometimes we confuse productivity with worth, and that can slowly erode our sense of value. But your worth was never based on output. From the beginning, Scripture tells us that humanity was called good before a single task was assigned. God's delight came before responsibility. That order still matters. If you are in a season where you feel paused, uncertain, or unseen, it does not mean you have failed. It may mean God is protecting you from moving forward too quickly. Growth without depth eventually collapses. God cares more about who you are becoming than how fast you are moving. Jesus spent 30 years in obscurity before 3 years of visible ministry. That detail is easy to overlook, but it is deeply comforting. Most of his life looked ordinary. Most of his days were quiet, and yet every moment was purposeful. If the Son of God was willing to live patiently within God's timing, we can trust that our slower seasons have meaning too. There is a kind of humility that develops only when we stop striving for recognition. It teaches us to listen. It teaches us to rest. It teaches us to depend on God, rather than our own momentum. The Psalms often reflect this tension, where the writer feels forgotten but still chooses to trust. That kind of faith is not naive, it is honest. It acknowledges pain without surrendering hope. If you are carrying disappointment today, God is not offended by your honesty. He invites it. Prayer was never meant to be polished. It was meant to be real. Some of the most meaningful prayers in Scripture are questions, laments, and quiet cries for help. God listens to those as closely as He listens to praise. When you feel like nothing is changing, it can help to ask not what God is doing around you, but what He is forming within you. Patience does not come naturally to most of us. Neither does trust. These are learned slowly, through repetition and surrender. Every time you choose to wait without bitterness, something strengthens inside you. Every time you choose kindness when frustration would be easier, something heals inside you. You may not see immediate results, but that does not mean nothing is happening. There is a verse that speaks about God completing the work He begins, not rushing it, not abandoning it, but carrying it through. Completion implies process. Process implies time, and time implies trust. You are allowed to rest in that truth. Rest does not mean giving up. It means releasing the pressure to prove yourself. It means trusting that obedience matters even when outcomes are unclear. The culture around us often tells us to hurry, to compare, to measure our lives against others. But Scripture consistently calls us back to a different rhythm. A slower rhythm, a deeper rhythm, one where faith is cultivated quietly. If you find yourself comparing your journey to someone else's, gently remind yourself that God's work is personal. What He is doing in you does not need to look like what He is doing in anyone else. Comparison steals gratitude and distorts perspective. Gratitude restores it. Even in uncertain seasons, there is always something to acknowledge: breath, grace, another day to learn, another chance to trust. These small acknowledgments ground us when larger answers are missing. There is a passage that describes faith as confidence in what we do not see. Hope for even when we cannot see it. That confidence is not loud. It is steady. It is a quiet decision to believe God is present, even when the evidence feels thin. You do not need to force optimism. You do not need to pretend everything is fine. Faith allows room for complexity. It allows joy and sorrow to coexist. It allows questions without condemnation. If today feels heavy, you are not weak for acknowledging that. You are honest, and honesty is where healing begins. God's timing often feels slow to us because we see only fragments. But Scripture reminds us that God sees the whole picture. What feels like delay to us may be preparation we cannot yet understand. Seeds take time to break open. That breaking is necessary for growth. If you are in a season of breaking, be gentle with yourself. Something new may be forming beneath the surface. It is okay to rest. Here. It is okay to breathe. It is okay to trust without having all the answers. God is not measuring your faith by productivity charts. He is present with you in the quiet. He is attentive to your heart. He is patient with your process. As this message settles with you, I encourage you to sit with it, not rush past it. Let it meet you where you are. If this reflection has spoken to your heart, you are welcome to stay connected through the Dear Woman of Faith channel, where these conversations continue gently and honestly. There is no pressure here, only shared reflection and encouragement. If you feel led, you can share a word of gratitude or hope in the comments, not for attention, but for connection. Sometimes someone else needs to see that they are not alone. And if you think of someone who may be quietly waiting right now, sharing this with them could be a simple act of kindness. As we come to the end of this reflection, let us pause and take a moment to be present to ourselves and each other. End of this time together. Take a moment to acknowledge where you are. Not where you wish you were, not where you think you should be, but where you are. God meets us there. Trust that His work in you is unfolding, even when it does not look productive at first. Give thanks for the unseen growth. Rest in His patience, and carry hope with you. Not as certainty, but as quiet trust. There is something sacred about continuing when nothing feels resolved. It is one of the hardest places to stay faithful, because there is no clear reward in sight. Yet this is often where God does some of His most careful work. Not the kind that changes circumstances overnight, but the kind that changes how you carry them. When you look back over your life, you may notice that the seasons that shaped you most were not the ones that felt successful. They were the ones that forced you to slow down, the ones that asked you to let go of control, the ones that taught you how to sit with uncertainty without running from it. Scripture never pretends that waiting is easy. Many of the writers speak openly about frustration, confusion, and even weariness. Yet woven through those words is a steady return to trust. Not because the pain disappeared, but because God remained. Bible, that God is near to the brokenhearted, not near to the impressive, not near to the accomplished, but near to those who feel worn down and unsure. That nearness matters more than answers. Presence matters more than explanations. Sometimes we want God to fix things quickly, when He is inviting us to walk with Him slowly. Walking implies companionship. It implies conversation. It implies learning the pace of another. When you rush ahead, you miss that intimacy. When you lag behind, you feel the tension. But when you walk with God, even uncertainty becomes bearable. You may not realize it, but the way you are learning to endure now will serve you later. The compassion you are developing through your own struggle will become a gift to others. The patience you are learning will soften your spirit. The humility you are gaining will keep you grounded when clarity finally comes. That is wasted. There is a story in Scripture about a potter and clay, shaping carefully, applying pressure with intention. The clay does not understand the pressure, but the potter does. If the clay hardens too soon, it cracks, so the potter works slowly. God's work in you is intentional like that. Pressure is not punishment, it is shaping. If you feel stretched, that does not mean you are failing. It may mean you are being formed for something you cannot yet see. And even if what comes next is not dramatic or public, it will still be meaningful. God does not measure significance the way we do. Faithfulness in small, unseen moments carries great weight in His eyes. You do not need to rush this season. You do not need to force clarity. You are allowed to trust that God knows how to bring fruit from hidden places. There is a peace that comes when you stop demanding proof and start allowing presence. That peace does not erase questions, but it steadies you beneath them. As you move forward, even slowly, carry this truth with you. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not wasting time by growing quietly. God is patient. God is attentive. And God is faithful to finish what He begins, in ways that honor both His timing and your heart. May you walk gently today. May you rest without guilt. May you trust without rushing. And may you find comfort in knowing that even now, in the unseen places, God is still at work.